so many of you here. Obviously works to say that there's not going to be any yoga for 2 weeks from us. I'm only joking. Maybe some of you haven't even read that message. So just to say, in case you didn't see on the screensaver, it would be handy to have a blanket. It would be handy, maybe, these things will all be optional, to have some kind of brick or thick book. And if you do have a bolster or a big cushion, that also may be handy. So these things aren't going to be essential, but they might come in handy. And we're going to start off in an easy seat, and we're going to take a seated breathing practice to begin with, because somebody who I think actually sadly isn't here wrote in about the fact they love this breathing practice, but we can all love it even if she's not here. And I'll make sure to do it again when she is next in the class. So if you'd like to come to an easy seat, you could be propped up against something, that would be fine. I just want you to be able to release down through the hips and to be able to feel your sitting bones. And then a slight delicacy or light dignity up through the spine. I haven't even got yoga clothes on this evening, so you're going to have to watch me doing yoga in my normal clothes. See how we get on with that. And then closing your eyes. And if you hear any funny noises, it's because Will is about 3 meters from me making samosas, because it's his son's 18th today and he needs to deliver them quick. And things have got a little bit delayed. So it's going to be an interesting accompaniment, maybe. If the deep frying gets too noisy, I'll give him a little nod.
That'll be later.
That'll be later, apparently. Anyway, let's take a little bit of time to settle. Take a little bit of time to really feel down through the base of your body. So you can enjoy that sense of contact with the support beneath you. And notice how you're feeling this evening. Really, really notice how you're feeling, because the practice today is not about rejecting difficulty. It's not about rejecting anxiety, turmoil, uncertainty. But it is about exploring how there's an inner stillness and spaciousness that we can access, that is always there, that's always behind, before and after anything that we might be experiencing. It's actually outside experience. And so the most important thing right now is to acknowledge what is present. If you're feeling stressed, accept that. I'm speaking to myself as well. And maybe make yourselves a sankalpa for this practice, an intention to keep coming back to. And then beginning to notice the sensation of air in your nostrils, the sensation of a natural breath. So you're able to tune into the stream of the breath without any intervention for now. We're going to practice a form of Viloma pranayama, it's called, which is designed to help us control our breath, but also expand on the inhalation and the exhalation. So you can listen to my instructions with your eyes closed, or if it helps you to visualize, you could open your eyes. And we're going to breathe in a moment, up a staircase, so that you sip in a little bit of breath and then you stop on a stair. You sip in a little bit more, you stop on a stair, until you've breathed in as far as you can breathe in, and you pause, and then you slide with your exhalation down the banister. And then you take a normal breath in and out before you start to breathe up the stairs again. So let's take time over this. And when you're ready, begin your in-breath up the stair, and pause, and up you go. Feeling the diaphragm softening and pressing down on your abdominal organs. And then feeling that floating up of the diaphragm as you release and you slide down the banisters. And I'm going to leave you a few breaths to explore how you go. So as you go up the stairs, don't feel that you have to go up 100 stairs. You could go up 3. The idea isn't to burst your lungs here, but to stay very safely within the envelope of a comfortable breath. And notice what it's like to pause on the steps. What do you notice on the steps? And really enjoy the slide down the banisters. So the lovely woman who wrote in about this is a music teacher, and she said that she'd started using this practice since the yoga online with her flute students. And she says it's really, really helped them begin to control their release of the diaphragm and the breath that they need to play the flute. It's just really lovely to know. Transferable skills. Okay, next time you slide down your banister, coming to a natural breath again to simply observe how you feel. And I hope I made it clear, I might not have made it quite clear enough, that between every lift up the steps, breath up the steps, you take a natural breath in and out. Otherwise it can become a little bit full on, a little bit of a strain. And then we're going to reverse that breath. So the breath in is a slide up the banister. When you get to the top, you pause, and then you start interrupting your exhalation as you come down the stairs. When you've got to the bottom, you take a normal breath in and out, and then you start again, slide up the banister. So finding your own breath, finding your own rhythm with this, and exploring this version of Viloma pranayama, sliding up the banisters. And then interrupting the exhalation. And notice your sense of control, especially on the exhalation. It's even more important. And remember to take a natural breath in and out in between each staircase breath. Just a couple more rounds. And the next time you've come down your stairway with the exhalation, settling into a natural breath and softening and simply feeling the body breathing. Nowhere to go. Maybe noticing how the practice has left you feeling. It's a really wonderful breathing practice to keep coming back to. Okay, and if you'd like to open your eyes, and I'd like you to, if you can, remove your socks, if they're not removed already. And we're going to come to probably most people's least favourite pose to start with. So I really want us to give our feet a little bit of love, and it's going to be cruel to be kind to begin with, but these are not long holds, just a minute or two. So if you'd like to come onto your knees and then really spread out your toes. You can even spread them out with your fingers, and maybe or maybe not all of your toes are pressing into the mat. I know that my little toe didn't used to, and nowadays it does, and that is as good as it gets in my life.
Better human being for that.
Sorry?
She's a better human being.
I'm a better human being for that, Will says. He doesn't really mean it. Okay, and then you sit back on your heels for maximum pressure on the toes. And I know that for some people this is pretty excruciating. So know that if it's becoming unbearable, that you can take the weight forwards. You can even come onto your hands like this. So this is a great way to start the theme of the practice tonight. In the midst of intense sensation and probably a whole firework display of thoughts and emotions of like, how long is she going to hold us here? Can't bear it, all of those things. I'm going to be quiet so that you can see if with your breath, maybe closing your eyes, you can find a spaciousness that goes right through that intensity and a stillness behind it. And if you don't, then that's absolutely fine too. We're going to try and hold it for another minute. Stay very, very close. Stay with the breath and with all sensation, not to avoid it, but to look behind it. It's a very profound practice because we're actually accessing the ground of being which lies beyond all flux, all change, all sensation, all thought. And then gently rocking forwards and releasing your toes. And taking a moment to feel the rebound in your feet. Feel that release and that warmth and that energy that is redirected, if you like, up through the ankles into the lower legs, possibly. And then if you're comfortable with this, sitting back on your heels for a moment. So another thing that I've learned from a lot since the weekend is that there's a wonderful teacher called Paul Grilly that I mentioned to some of you last week, and he taught. I would never have access to his classes because he's in California and has stopped coming to the UK. But he taught an online class at the weekend, and one of the things that he did that I don't do so much that I'd like to bring into this practice is he gave really long periods of rest in between postures. So I often mention the rebound, but he had us lying down and just absorbing and feeling in between postures, a lot longer than I normally would. So we'll look forward to some of that. We're not lying down right now though. We're going to take the opposite stretch. So you could lean your hands behind you and see if you can lift your knees off the floor. And some of you will find that quite easy. And some of you might be able to lift them really high. And for some of you, the knees will be really low down because we're stretching the front of the ankles and the top of the feet. And this is an unusual thing to do. And so needless to say, it's going to feel maybe a little bit more intense than you would like it to feel. Can you come to your breath and find some stillness now, and I'll be quiet. Stay with it. You've only got another 5 minutes to go. It's a joke.
I was going to say, bloody hell.
Beautiful, and we're coming out now, gently coming forwards. And taking a moment again to simply feel. Notice the breath and be aware of what your reaction was during that ankle stretch. And then leaning forwards onto your hands and curling your toes under. And we're going to push back so our heels are off the floor, and we're going to come up into a dangling pose. So some people call this elephant. And you can keep your knees bent. And the sense here is that you have the whole of your upper body releasing out of the pelvis and just hanging. If you want to start stimulating the backs of your legs more, you would begin to straighten your legs, but you don't need to be in a hurry. And then come to your breath and feel that release earthwards through the top of your head. And come to your breath, simple breath. We're not going to intervene in the breath in any way for the rest of the practice. Just a little bit longer. We're only staying for 1 minute in this dangling pose. So beautiful for decompressing the spine. If you think of all the sitting we do, standing we do, this is just reversing all of that. Beautiful. And then from your dangle, can you take your feet a little bit further apart? Maybe the toes are pointing out. And we're going to come down into a squat. And for some people, this will be accessible. But for some of you, you might like to take a block behind you to take your heels onto, or you can roll your mat up into a little sausage. Whatever works for you, because we're going to stay in our squat for between 1 and 2 minutes. So it's quite a long time. So take time to settle. And then maybe you can, without too much strain, just use your upper arms to ease your legs apart, your palms are together. And to counter the sense of sinking down through the hips and the base of the pelvis, maybe you can feel a little bit of an opening and a lift in your chest, but nothing too strong. And then come to your breath and quietness. And observe, simply observe what happens. Observe what happens with the breath, with your thoughts. Maybe you're able to slip behind all of that into some stillness. Stay with it for just a few more seconds. And then rocking forwards onto your fingertips. And we come back into a dangle. So bring your feet to parallel. And again, simply pour the upper body up, out of the pelvis. Maybe again feeling quite a sense of relief, of rebound around the ankle area. And breathe. So I'm saying stay in dangle, but if you have any condition that means that your head shouldn't be beneath your heart, you could come down and sit on the floor with your legs extended and come into a forward fold, caterpillar. And if you want to access more sensation in the back of the legs, you straighten your legs. We'll just stay a tiny bit longer here. Really, really letting go. This is a beautiful pose to completely let go. And then from here, we come back for a second and final squat, maybe a little bit shorter than the last. So taking your heels on top of anything that you need. And you might find that this squat feels quite different. You might find it's easier. It feels easier to me. And then finding that lift up through the spine and an opening in the chest at the same time as sinking down through your buttocks, your sitting bones, and breathe. And I'm loving the code name Tulipicious or Tulipiferous, all because she has the best tulips outside her front door. We know who that is. I've got tulip envy. Thank you for the poem Tulipiferous or Tulipicious, whatever you've put. Okay, and then from here, taking your hands behind you and sitting down and just releasing your legs out. And now we will take a rebound. We're going to lie down. Legs extended, arms extended, and we're just going to feel the body now. Take time. The only thing to do is to notice and to absorb and to be. There's nothing to do. And I don't know if you notice that if you do stay a while, that there can be, I'm not suggesting you're feeling what I'm feeling, because we're all different, but there can be quite a surge of sensation if we simply stop to observe. Which part of the body or parts of the body do you notice is alive and vibrant with sensation right now? Let's take a little bit longer. Actually, would you mind if the rest of the class we just lay here? That would be so good. I think we're going to get up now and move to another pose. So if you'd like to bend up your knees, roll over to one side. Sorry, I'm being a bit facetious tonight. And come up to sitting. And we're going to take a pose which is going to target our gluteal muscles up the sides of the thighs, the iliotibial band, and these little muscles that go into our gluteal muscles called the piriformis. And there's a choice here. There is a choice, and it's completely depending on your anatomy, which you're going to choose. And I want you to choose the one, try them all. I want you to choose the one that gives you most sensation, that is, there's something you can stay with. So the first would be shoelace. And I've got my left knee stacked over my right knee. And it's pretty tight into both sides here. But it's good. And I can feel both sitting bones. That is shoelace. If this is already really, really difficult and you're kind of like that, you take half shoelace, where you extend your right leg underneath, and then you get a hamstring stretch as well. So you get an additional target area. And then the other option, and some people find this harder and some people find it easier than shoelace, is to come straight into a square pose or fire log pose. And this is where you have both shins on top of each other, and the right ankle is over the left knee. And eventually the left knee will come down to the right ankle. So you could stay here if you're able to. Some people just find this impossible. And if you're again right up here, but you want to stay with this pose, just slip the left foot in front of the right knee and see how that feels. And we come into this pose for 3 minutes. So I'm hoping that you've chosen your option, or you're choosing your option. And then come into sensation. These poses are also poses that can churn up a lot of stuff, physical, emotional, energetic. If you want to intensify the sensation, in case it's not enough, you lean forwards. You can bring your forearms down in front of you. So find what's possible for you that gives you intense sensation but not acute pain. And then see if you can soften into it. See if you can soften right into it and let go as much as you can. And if your mind wanders, come back to the breath and maybe explore that possibility for stillness and inner silence. And stay, we're halfway through. I know it can be very intense. And can you notice that when things get tough, that it'd be quite natural to start gripping, to start trying to compensate with a part of the body that's not actually involved right now. So maybe your shoulders, your throat, your jaws, your eyes. And what might it be like to let go in those areas and then see how that translates, almost flows down as a message to let go in the hips? I know it's hard. And then we very, very gently come out, very slowly come out. That pose generates a lot of heat for me. It's incredible, it's like a furnace going right into the hips. And then very gently, whichever variation you've chosen, release your legs. And take a moment, we won't take a long rebound now because we'll do the other side. Take a moment to feel the legs as you just take the weight back into your hands and notice what goes on for you. So is anyone who's interested in the traditional Chinese medical side to Yin, which is much more interested in the meridians, these energy pathways according to Chinese traditional medicine. The pose we just did, and when we do it on the other side, it's the same as targeting the gallbladder and liver meridians, which are, and these organs are, as you know, involved with detoxifying the blood. And when the chi, when the energy is out of balance, we can experience quite a lot of anger, frustration, maybe some of the things that you experience in the pose. But when we nourish the meridians in the way we've just done, it can bring about such a fantastic release in that part of your emotional makeup, if that is relevant for you. It might not be, you might not have liver and gallbladder issues. We're going to come to the other side. So either you're taking half shoelace with the right knee over the left and just coming down over the legs, or you're taking full shoelace where you can feel into both of your sitting bones. And then if you want to, you can also come forwards. Whatever you do, you're looking to find the intensity of sensation that is workable for you. So not too much, not too little. And then if you want to take square pose, you have the right ankle over the left knee and you stack the shins up like fire logs on top of each other, allowing the right knee eventually to drop down to the left foot. If you want to experience this pose but are all caught up like this, just slip the right foot down in front of the left knee. And then whichever version you've chosen, decide if you want to intensify by coming forwards. And we stay for 3 minutes. So it's not a bundle of laughs. It's not like the best way to spend a Friday night maybe, but it's one of the deepest releases into the hips and a nourishment of the liver and gallbladder that you'll ever have. It's quite a big claim. That's my experience of it anyway. And stay with it and observe and keep coming back to the simplicity of your breath. Feel the breath in the body. Stay very, very close and notice if there's any compensation going on by clinging and gripping in parts of the body that are not needed, parasitic clinging. and let go. And it's inevitable it will feel different on each side of the body. So this might be harder or it might be easier. But it's likely to be intense either way. Stay close. You've got 1 more minute. You're doing amazingly. Maybe you feel that heat being generated. I feel a heat going all the way up into my head. I don't know if you're experiencing anything like that. Boiling hot. Obviously got a very toxic liver. Just a little bit longer, a few more breaths. And very, very gently, saved by the bell, coming all the way up. And softly, whichever pose you're in, releasing the legs. And now it is time to take one of these long, delicious rebound rests where you simply lie down and you wait to see what you notice. So don't search for anything in particular, just wait and observe. Completely receptive to sensation. So what the language Paul Grilly would use to explain what's going on here is that in these poses we're stressing our joints and we're stressing the connective tissue more importantly. We're not exactly stretching, but we're stressing this tissue. So it might be ligaments, tendons, fascia. And as we do that, we're compressing the chi, we're compressing energy in these areas. So inevitably, when we unfold and unfurl and we lie like this, completely receptive and open, we're going to experience a redistribution of chi, a redistribution of energy around the body. And maybe that's what you're feeling right now, like a movement of tingling. Obviously in the lower body specifically for this pose, but you might notice other stuff going on. Feel it. And soften right into it. And there again, you might find some stillness, some spaciousness, which in an interesting way exceeds your individual body. It's beyond you. And at the same time supports you completely. It's what all matter, what all thought, what all experience comes out of and returns to. And again, I'm tempted to stay, but I'm going to slowly get up. You can bend your knees and roll over to one side. Lovely. And we're going to come to a very simple forward fold, but I want you to listen. I want you to listen carefully. I want you to feel the most you can feel in this pose. So the pose could be a caterpillar pose, which is like the dangling pose that we did, where we're just simply releasing over the legs, and you're not pulling the toes towards you. Your legs are relaxed, and what we're looking for here is to feel sensation in the back of the legs, hamstrings, as well as obviously getting a nice opening in the back. So if you feel a lot in the hamstrings here, then stay with this. I don't feel anything. So I'm going to show you two other variations. You could bring your right foot in towards the thigh with the left leg straight out in front of you. And find a little bit of a lift first out of the pelvis, then come down. Maybe that will give you more sensation in the back of the left leg, but I still don't feel anything. And again, it was Paul Grilly's workshop which really helped with this for me, because I've always wondered. And although I knew this pose, it's not something I often practice. Let me show you on this side. Instead of taking the right foot into the left leg, bring the right foot outside the right hip. And then see what kind of sensation that gives you. And now I have a beautiful, rich sensation in the back of the left leg. So we're going to stay for 3 minutes on each side. And if you're in the pose with both of your legs extended, you'll get a 6-minute pose, so nice and long. Settle yourself in. If you need to take anything underneath that knee, the left knee, because your pelvis just won't come forwards, then take a rolled up blanket or a cushion there. And then release. And it doesn't matter where your upper body goes, you might want to move it around a bit to find where you feel most. And can you sink in? Can you sink right into the heart of this pose now? So I'm not giving you a guided breathing practice, but do be aware of your breath. Keep coming back to your breath, especially if your mind starts getting diverted a lot. And forward folds are always wonderful for stillness. They're the most introverted of all the asana, of all the poses. Really turn into yourself. And for the final minute of the pose, inquire into where you might be holding tension, where you're able to soften and let go a little bit more. Just let go. If you're in the full forward fold with both legs extended, please just stay where you are. If you have your left leg only extended, bringing yourself up. And then extending the right leg. And we'll come straight into the pose on the other side. So either left foot in towards the thigh in a half butterfly, this is called. or taking your left foot out to the side into a half frog. And it's always nice to begin a forward fold with a slight lift out of the pelvis first, and then a melting forwards. So incidentally, if you were in a hatha class, you'd be pulling your toes towards you, quite disciplined. Here, just allow the foot to flop out to the side. There's nothing to engage. We don't stress the connective tissues through engaging the muscles. Absolutely not. We stress the tissues through gravity, with time, with these positions of the body which assert some pressure. But in my mind, Yin, the most interesting aspect of Yin, which is not what Paul really talks about because he's most interested in the physiology of it, in the anatomy of it. What interests me is that really what we're doing is practicing an embodied meditation. We stay and we can't avoid ourselves, so we can observe everything. And it's only through being able to observe what comes up that we might be able to work through the other side of difficult things, to bring about change by being with what is. So we're not searching for change, we're staying with what is and then noticing what happens. You might find that what is right now is not a particularly comfortable state of affairs. Things are very difficult at the minute for a lot of people. Stay very, very close to sensation and to the breath. And then again, everybody now, a little bit of engagement in the abdominal muscles to support you as you come up. And we have another nice long rebound hold. So releasing your left leg and coming to lying down, legs apart, arms away from the body. And feel the rebound. Feel the body now. Notice the movement of energy, of sensation through the body. And give yourself up completely to the support beneath you, which just feels so good right now to me. And as you lie here a little bit longer, I'm going to read a few lines out of a verse that most of you will know because it's, well, I imagine a lot of people know it. It's by T.S. Eliot, and it's called The Still Point of the Turning World. So I'm just taking a very short part of the verse from Burnt Norton. So this was his poem called The Four Quartets. At the still point of the turning world, neither flesh nor fleshless, neither from nor towards. At the still point there the dance is, but neither arrest nor movement. And do not call it fixity, where past and future are gathered. Neither movement from nor towards, neither ascent nor decline. Except for the point, the still point, there would be no dance, and there is only the dance. So if you'd like to gently bring yourselves up now. And we'll take another type of forward fold, but now that's accessing a different part of the body. So it's less about the hamstrings, and this is more about the groin area. And again, I'm going to give you two choices. So what I'm doing in some of this class is very much learning from and using the teachings of the workshop I went to at the weekend, Paul Gridley, but I'm mixing it with some other poses, other teachings. It's a little bit of a mashup. So with this pose, dragonfly, I forgot the name of it for a moment, your legs are as wide apart as they can be, but you're taking your feet out to the side, just dropping the feet out. You might need to sit up on a blanket if you're really slumping in the lower back and you can't tilt the pelvis forwards. So you want to already begin to feel a nice stretch here in the groin, maybe a bit of the inner thighs. You want to be able to sit a little bit in front of your sitting bones. You can even lift yourself up and come down. And then you breathe in and lift, and then simply come forwards as far as is right for you. So again, that is one choice. And if the sensation in the groin, the inner thighs is good, stay there. The other option is a wide-kneed child's pose or a tadpole, where you take your knees as far apart as they'll go, big toes together, and then you sit back on your heels. So again, you've got a stretch here, and you come down. And for some people, that is going to be, it's interesting, isn't it? I'm not sure which is better for me. You experiment with what's best for you. And I'd like to make this a longer hold. I'd like to make this a 5-minute hold. So it's more of an opportunity to drop deeper. So choose which pose you'd like to do. I've just put the timer on. And then come into a place where you can stay. And one thing I haven't said is that you could place a bolster under your belly here if you want to make it more restorative. Take a bolster underneath your head like that, long ways. Or if you're in the dragonfly version, you could also take a bolster and come down on it, maybe even propping it up a little bit. So for these really long held poses, sometimes a few props are quite nice. A little bit more restorative than true yin, which can be quite severe. Quite a severe practice sometimes, yin. Then drop into your own stillness. And I'm going to stay quiet. I'm going to stay quiet. I'm going to try to at least. Maybe you can drop into the still point of your turning world where the dance is. And breathe. And if stuff keeps coming up for you, recurring thoughts, uncomfortable thoughts or emotions, you can nod to them. And you can even say, I can come back to you later. Or just stay there in the corner of your awareness and see if you can see the space from which those thoughts and those emotions arise. It's a different place to dwell, it's a different place to be. Stay very, very present, very, very close to your breath, to sensation. Just a few more seconds here. And then gently, gently coming up. So if you were in the tadpole version, the wide-kneed child's pose, just bringing your knees together and sitting for a moment or kneeling for a moment. If you're in dragonfly with your legs wide apart, just bringing your legs together and taking a moment here to sit and feel the body. You can lean back on your hands if you like, to feel the rebound. And then either way, whether you're kneeling or your legs extended, just bringing your knees up, feet quite wide apart, and take a few moments of windshield wipers here, just to rinse through the hips and the pelvis, quite soothing. It's also a little bit of a gentle twist for the lower spine. And we come to another very simple pose. There's no massive surprises in this practice. It's more about the quality that we're exploring. So we're going to come to a couple of back bends. And we're going to take 5 minutes in the back bend, and you're going to have a choice to move in and out of different levels of intensity. So if you're very bony across the front of your pelvis, you might want to take a blanket down here. And the first pose to explore would be just a simple sphinx. So elbows are underneath the shoulders. Either your forearms are parallel or you bring the palms together. Now for some people, there'll be no sensation here at all. And we're looking to feel a compression in the lower back. That's what we're doing. We're working with the lumbar spine. And some people will feel it's too much. So if you're of the camp where you already feel this is too much, take your elbows out and come down a notch. You can rest your head. So you have a much more gentle curvature in the spine. If you're feeling compression here, then you can stay, just allowing the shoulder blades to slide down the spine. And then there are two options to make this a bit stronger. One is that you have a bolster and you lift your forearms up on the bolster. It's quite nice. And the other is to come up into a seal pose. I'm going to put the timer on now. It's a 5-minute pose, so it's another long one. So just be aware that if you come into seal, your pubic bone is on the mat. You're not lifting all the way up. And your hands are pointing out like seal flippers, about mat distance apart. And then you just find a softness at the back of your neck. And you don't want any pinching. You don't want to feel like you're trapping a nerve in your lumbar spine, or that there's pain because of some issue with your discs. And there's a couple of other things I could say that might or might not be relevant for you. You might like to try clenching your buttocks a little bit, see what that feels like. Doesn't work for me. Or you might like to feel a slight drag of your tailbone towards your heels. So this just creates a little bit more space in the lower back. And then I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet. And if you find you've come into the stronger version of the pose and it's too strong, come back to the slightly lighter version. So move from seal down to sphinx, for example. And stay with the breath. Feel your body breathing with the space around you. And how soft can you become in your face, your forehead and your temples, the tissues around your eyes, your nostrils, your jaws and your mouth. How soft can you become? Stay very, very close to your experience of this pose, to physical sensation, and to a sense of your body in space, the space around you, and the space within every cell of your body. And sometimes it can come about, really tuned in and really quiet, that there's very little difference between the space inside your body and the space outside your body. Just as an inquiry, see what that's like for you. And taking a full breath in, and then as you breathe out, settling yourself very slowly all the way down, and bring your hands underneath your forehead. Allow your heels to just roll out to the side. And breathe into the front of your body. And this is where you'll feel the rebound. As you breathe into the front of the body, what do you experience around the area of your lower back, the top of your buttocks, maybe moving a little further up the back? Taking your time. And then drawing your hands by your ribs so you're able to push yourself up to all fours. And just as a very brief counter pose, we'll sit back into a hare pose with the forearms down. So we're not coming all the way into child. Just feeling the back body, directing a few breaths into the back of the body. We're going to come into Tumultuous or Tumultuous's favourite pose now, which is a slightly more intense back bend, which targets the front of the hips and the top of the thighs. And it's saddle pose. So again, this is a pose which is, for some people, nothing, and for some people, really, really tricky. So what I'd like to suggest, I'm going to first of all just demonstrate the pose with no props at all. And then you have an option of using props or of taking half saddle if it's just going to be too much for you. So you're going to sit on your heels for this version. And it's absolutely fine if your knees come apart, all there together. And the full pose is when you lie all the way back. And with time, the pelvis will sink. And for some people, the knees will come off the floor a bit, and that is fine. As long as you have no pain in the knees, but you've got a lovely, rich sensation at the top of your thighs, the front of the hips, you're good. You're good to go. However, that is not everybody's cup of tea. You might find you want to stay in this version, but just lean back, maybe onto your forearms, or you could bring a bolster behind you and maybe even lift the bolster up with a brick underneath it so that that's really lovely. That is a really lovely version. The half version is to release one foot and to have the other, so release one leg and to have the other foot not under the buttock but out to the side. So you just get half at a time. So what we'll do is if you're doing half, you're going to have 3 minutes on each side, which means if you're in the full pose, it's a 6-minute pose. So you choose your option. And I'm going to put the timer on now for 3 minutes for those of you who are taking the half option. And can I remind you, there should be absolutely no pain in the knee, but normal that you would feel quite an intense burning in the quadriceps and up over the front of the pelvis. And I'm sitting on my heels, but if you're doing the half version with one leg extended, you bring your foot out to the side of the hip. And then you settle in, and it's absolutely fine, as I said, for your knees to separate or to lift off the floor a bit. So you find where you can be, and it's a lot of compression in the lower spine again, this one. You can take your arms wherever you like, maybe over the head. And then settle in. And I'll remind those of you who are in the half version to change sides. when the timer tells me. And this is a pose that can be quite alarming for some people. It can feel very, very tense, and then suddenly it goes. If you let yourself drop into it completely and trust the process, unless there's pain in the knees, in which case don't trust the process at all. Breathe. And when we're working with the whole of the front and the whole of the back of the body, like we have been, rather than the hips, we're working with the spleen and stomach meridians. So it's very much more associated with a sense of coming home, nourishment, of digestion. And when they're out of balance, this is when we can feel quite off kilter, anxious. And when we work with them, we can come back to a sense of homeliness, of groundedness, of trusting the ground of being beneath us. So good. If you're in the half version, gently releasing the leg that's underneath you, taking a moment before you bend the other leg. And we'll start 3 minutes on that side. And if you're on the whole version, see if you need to alter at all to come either a little bit further out, or maybe you're dropping a little bit further in, because the body does yield in yin. And drop into it. If you can, find some inner peace here, if it's possible. That's not by pushing irritation or difficulty or anxiety away. It's about accepting what's present. Only then will there be that sense of peace, of space, of stillness. Easier said than done, I know. Whether you're on the mat or off the mat. And if someone tells you to do that, like your partner, it's the last thing you're going to want to do, right? Just saying. Just giving you guys out there a little inkling of what it's like in our house right now. Stay with the pose, stay with the breath. We're coming towards a final minute. So for those of you who didn't take the half version and are in the full one, that's a long time to hold saddle, especially if there's not a bolster underneath you. It's a long time. But we're going to have a nice long rebound. Stay with it, just coming to the final 30 seconds. Where can you let go? Where can you soften? So to come out of this pose, you do need to engage your abdominal muscles a little bit, and you might Hold onto the sides of your mats or press into your elbows and forearms. And don't be in any hurry, especially if you were in the full version, because it's a long time to be here. Very gently come up, very gently come up. And if you were within half version, releasing the leg that's bent. And then taking a moment before going anywhere to sit with a neutral spine, whether your legs are extended or you're kneeling. And it's inevitable that you might feel a little bit strange. And then from here, coming to lying flat on your back for a delicious rebound. Take your time. So if you're on a bolster, come off the bolster so your whole body is supported by the floor. That is pretty amazing, I think. Maybe you feel a slightly different sense of contact with the floor than you have done before. And breathe and just explore and absorb sensation. Stay very, very close so you don't miss anything in this inquiry. Where do you feel it? I'm going to end the physical practice with quite a brief twist. And I'm going to give you two options for the twist. You could either keep your left leg extended and take your right foot to the left knee and then simply roll over to the left, encouraging your knee to the floor or maybe bolstering it up on a cushion or a block. And your right arm is either out in a T shape and you're looking over towards it, or you might like to bring the arm up close to your ear. So we're looking to feel sensation here across the hip, across the lower back, the side waist. And the other option is to have both of your knees bent and to bring them both over, with the right arm either extended in a T shape or around the ear. So finding your pose, we'll stay for between 2 and 3 minutes and seeing if you can melt a little bit into the right shoulder blade, melt the inner thighs, and become really soft here. And let go. The softest of stuff in the world penetrates quickly the hardest. Insubstantial, it enters where no room is. That's Lao Tzu. The softest stuff of the world penetrates quickly the hardest. Insubstantial, it enters where no room is. I love that. Let's soften a bit more. Let's let go and soften a bit more. And breathe and be. Where can you become softer than you are already? Where are you still holding? And then if you'd like to bring your head back to neutral first, lift the right knee, take the foot to the floor and slide. You can lift the left knee and then slide both legs away. Taking a moment to feel the body now before we take that brief twist to the other side. So it may be that you're just going to bend one leg, in which case take the left foot to the right knee and roll over to the right. Bringing your left arm either close up to the ear or out in a T shape. Or maybe you're bending both knees up and settling into a gentle spinal twist and finding softness here. I should have said on the other side, if both knees are bent, the further away your knees are from your armpit, the lower down the spine the twist is targeting. And the higher up your knees are towards your armpit, the higher up the spine the twist is targeting. So if you want a little bit more work around your thoracic spine, so up closer to your shoulder blades, that area, then lift the knees further up and see how that feels. Or if you feel like a little bit lower down, more work in the pelvis and the lower back, take your knees further down. And then come to softness your way. And let go. And let go. Even softer. So this sequence, compared to a sequence from a couple of weeks ago, has very much targeted the lower body rather than the upper body. Next time I'm back to teaching Yin, I'll probably come back to that upper body sequence again. We've just got a few more seconds here before we come and rest on our backs. And then gently bring your head back to neutral, lifting your legs back over and taking a moment to make sure that your spine is lovely and neutral and long and straight, and then slide your feet away. Make sure you're warm enough. Arms by your side, a little way away from your body. Palms facing up, feet rocking out to the sides, and just allow yourself to rest now in Shavasana for few minutes, few minutes. Gently beginning to bring a little bit of a deeper breath into the body, maybe a little bit of movement. So I'd like to finish this practice in a seat altogether, eyes closed. If you'd like to join me when you're ready. If you set yourself an intention for your practice, maybe recalling that now. Coming back to a sense of your body in the space of your room. And the stream of a natural breath. Maybe or maybe not, it'll depend on you. With this sense of there being very little divide or difference between the spaciousness that is around the body and the space that is within you in every cell. Space between thoughts. Space between sensation. Even space between the breath. If you'd like to bring your hands together and rub them quite vigorously to create some friction, some heat. And then place that warmth over your eyes. You can even rub a little bit, maybe feeling a sense that the heat is seeping behind your eyes into your brain. Even breathe it in. And then when you're ready, sliding your fingers down your face, you can open your eyes, bring your hands together in front of the heart space. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm actually going to I'm not